Alright, hello everybody. New series time. I know everybody loves their new series, but in this one, once again, just getting ready for Charlotte. So just like the 1 hour puzzle videos that I have out, these are going to be videos where I'm kind of going to be, focusing on my growth and stuff and getting up to pretty high caliber before the tournament begins. And part of that involves playing some games on my main account, of course. So I've inted down all the way down to like 1850. So over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to try to get back up towards around 2000 and then hopefully higher, but we'll see. But I'm going to be going over my games. These are 30-minute games as opposed to the normal 10-minute ones that I do, just because my series would take forever if I did 30-minute games. But I have a lot more time to think when it comes to 30-minute games, which is where a lot of the learning occurs. Because I may miss a lot of mistakes and stuff when I go through my games too quickly, like the 10-minute ones. But for 30 minutes, I'm able to kind of hone in a little more. But anyway, I'm going to go over the game, what I was thinking, and then I'll go over it with the computer, just because I haven't done that yet myself either. But yeah, let's jump in. So I was white, so of course, standard b4. We get e5, bishop e2, and we get the capture variation. And now this variation is either going to be very bland, in which you're going to get to an endgame where there's absolutely nothing going on, right? You're just going to have the same pieces, and it's just who has better late game than at that point, and game technique. Or you get to trick them, if they play this, for example, or if they go with this variation, sorry, not here, here, and then take, queen takes, knight's going to come over here, and then the queen can't secure everything, so you win a rook normally, or a bishop. But anyway, in this game we got the boring variation, where everything got traded off, and that's pretty common for slow formats. So if you go into a tournament with the b4 opening, planning to get a trick every single game, you are not going to get it. But anyway, knight here, knight there, and we see knight c6. You also sometimes see castles, and both of those are good for black. If you see c6 in an online game, there's a chance that he's cheating. If it's like a blitz game, I would say it's a very high chance that he's cheating. If he like blitzed it out, without thinking. But these two moves are probably the two best options for black outside of c6, and c6 requires like some very good prep. But anyway, we got this. What you want to do is take. If you were to go back, for example, then this bishop is not going to be all that useful. Its position just isn't as good as it could have been. You want it to be on this diagonal, aimed at the king. If it's over here, then it's aimed at literally, like nothing. So you don't really want to do that. You'd rather just take the knight. Queen takes, knight d5, and now, again, there's a few moves that work here, but pretty much what the queen wants to do is it wants to protect this square. Because if I take here, then I obviously win a rook. So he could go here, he could go here, he could go here, or he could go here. These are all valid moves. Some are better than others. So if he goes here, for example, and then I take, then, if he takes with the knight, then his queen is kind of blocking his bishop's progress. If he just goes back with the queen immediately, then he is pretty much losing a tempo. So we're fine with that too. We could start threatening the bishop and then, getting our other pieces out. But our knight is pretty strong on d5, and he's going to have to waste more moves just trying to, get rid of this piece from a good square. But yeah, we are going to see the queen there line. And by there, I mean d6. Knight is going to take on b4, and he could take this either way. I see taking it with a knight more frequently, but I see both. He is going to take with a knight, and I'm just going to start developing. So he doesn't actually have a threat on me on this square or on this square. There's nothing that he can do. And this is not where this knight wants to be long term. So I don't really want to make a move kind of pushing him back because he's getting into a better spot, really. If I go here and he goes here on d5, for example, that's a great square. Excuse me. I have some hiccups, but that's a great square for the knight to be on. Or he could go here, and then he has the potential to trade off the knights. He has the potential to get to this square if he wants to in the future. but there's really no point in playing c3, I have found. I think that when I used to study this opening with the engine, that they thought that it was fine for white to do so, but I don't see a point. I'd rather just get a little more out there. We got castle. Now I'll play c3, and he does go to a better square. And here I was actually contemplating in-game, and I'm curious to see what the engine will say, but I was thinking, what if I went e4? And the idea is that now I have very good central control, right? He has no pawns in the center, I have 2. And if he goes here, then I was thinking I could just push and have a fork against the queen and the knight. He can go rook here, for example, so then I can't really take one of them. But I could just go bishop here to e2, and then one of them will be taken. But I don't know, just some thoughts that I had. I ended up not doing this because I was thinking that he was going to go knight to b6, and after knight b6, I was thinking that rook coming to e8 would be a little more uncomfortable. I can't defend this way. I can put my queen here, but that's also kind of awkward. I don't really want to do that right now. And then, since I have a light squared bishop, I want to try to keep my pawns on dark squares. That's why I played c3, and why that move is okay. That's also why I played g3 instead of e4. We get b6. I go ahead and fianchetto. He puts his bishop on b7, and then I castle. Yep, he targets the e2 pawn. I go ahead and put that onto a dark square as well. And as of now, I would say that I'm slightly better prepared for the endgame, just because my pawns are on better squares than his are. I also have a very nice bishop right here, and while his bishop is pretty nice right there, I have no intention of trading bishops, just because mine is doing so much for me here and protecting my light squares. If you're flipping the board, and let's say that you're black in this position, you do want to try to win this knight and this bishop, mainly the bishop. You want to try to exchange them, because then you have a lot of weaknesses that your opponent has on these squares. So for example, the knight could slip in, you can bring your queen over here, you could start your pawns up here, queen there, go for a little mate. You have more threats on the king when this bishop is not protecting all the important squares. But anyway, he goes ahead and goes knight to f6. This was not his permanent home. It was also blocking this diagonal, so he didn't want it to be there. He's also looking to play knight to e4 in the future. So a couple of moves that I was considering in-game were queen c2, I was thinking about d4, and I was thinking about queen to b3. And I don't think any of them were super bad, but the move that I prioritized was d4, just because, say I go here, for example, and then he goes knight to e4, then, I mean, he's threatening 2 pawns simultaneously. So this one I obviously have to protect, but through protecting that one, I am, putting another one in danger. So I'd rather just play d4 right away and not have to deal with any of that stuff. So d4, knight to e4. Now I'll defend it, and then I'm also having this nice potential future attack on the king. We get rook to b8, and the reason for that is that otherwise I have the move knight to g5, which I do eventually get to play. But what's good about knight g5 is that if his rook was on a8 and I play this, he can take my knight, I can take his bishop, and then I'm able to go back. Whether that way or this way, doesn't really matter, but I'm able to escape. So, actually, was I able to escape? I'm actually not sure now. Let's just pretend he did some move like this, for example. So here, takes... Yes, I would be able to escape because I'm threatening his rook, so he has to go there and then I can't get away. I was thinking he could block off my path, but no, because I'm attacking his rook as well. But anyway, what I was trying to say by that is then I can go back and I have a bishop versus a knight, and like I said, I want my bishop to be here and he wants to trade it off, so I win, essentially, right? I got my bishop to stay there like I wanted it to. So I play a4, and what I'm trying to attack here is this pawn. And if I take this pawn, no matter which way he takes, my rook can go on a7, I can start doubling. Or if he takes here, then I take, then he has two pawns that are not touching, so they're pretty easy targets for me later on. And if he happens to push, then I can push as well, and I could kind of cement my presence on a6, which is not going to be comfortable for him whatsoever. And now he plays queen here, which I think was a mistake, because I get this move now. If he takes this pawn with his queen, I take the knight, and he's not able to recapture because then his queen is free, it's hanging. If I take this knight and then he takes my queen, then I retake, and then I've won a knight for a pawn. Also, if he takes with a knight, he's just going to lose his queen, so that's not good. And then he can't take this knight because I am able to take his queen. So I was thinking he had a few options, and he actually played one that I didn't think of. But I was thinking that he was going to protect this knight with like queen g6, for example. I also thought that he might go... what was the other move I was thinking? I guess that's the only move I thought that he would play. But what he ended up playing was d5, which I didn't expect. But I still thought that that was a pretty good victory for me. Reason being, once we trade these off, his bishop is useless on this diagonal, and while my bishop is also useless on that diagonal, my bishop was more so providing me protection on the light squares, whereas his was trying to force its way in. So I've kind of won my battle as far as we don't trade off the bishops, for a little while at least. And then my idea was to, do something like this, then I have more power against this pawn because his 2 will be gone. But that was kind of the idea that I was playing with, so I was still happy that I was able to isolate his pawn right here and shut down his little attack that he had going on. So c4. Like I said, I'm considering this. I really just don't want him to push. Now I can take. He goes and plays bishop a6. So I play rook to c1, just defending this. He plays f5, further protecting this. So I switch my vision, since this is no longer going to be a threat. Since this is no longer going to be a target, I now want to fight over this square. I could push it, I can have a check against the king, I can have a check against the king here and have tempo there. I just have a lot of options here, not to mention I want to put as much protection on this as possible. So he plays queen to e6, and I don't entirely understand what he was doing with this move. I think that he was just kind of uncomfortable having this battery against him. And now I'm kind of getting some ideas that, well, if I could get my bishop here and potentially pin him, that would be very nice. So I push a5, and obviously, if I were to take, then, I might somehow get my dream. But this is still way in the future, just some ideas I have in my head. Right now, I just mainly want to ruin this pawn structure right here. That's kind of, I don't know if that's what they call the minority attack, if you ever see that in like a chess book or a chess puzzle or anything like that. But I do like disrupting my opponent's pawn structures when I only have like 1 or 2 pawns in the vicinity. And by doing so, the other ones become targets that you could pick off. Because like, for example, if you were to take this right here, he has 3 isolated pawns, and isolated pawns cannot be protected. Whereas right here, there are 3 connected pawns, so it's very easy to protect. He just moves his rook here, and all 3 are protected. And it's still somewhat useful. But I play a5, and he moves back. And I'm debating this move, but I think he's fine if he just goes bishop a8. He still has that long diagonal. Also, he could go here and then find his way back into the game. I don't know how, but somehow. So I didn't really want to play a6. I'd rather damage his structure. So I get rid of my solo pawn, which was my weakness. I take. He takes this way because otherwise I win a free pawn. But I still get my rook on a very good square on a7. And if you've ever heard the saying, rooks belong on the 7th rank, it's just because they're here cutting off the king's escape. So they just are at home on the 7th rank, really. we get queen to c8. And now his idea is either go rook here and then exchange them off, or he's looking to put this here and then just trap my rook. And both are fine. I don't know which one he was planning, but I kind of made a move against that anyway. So the idea was if he goes bishop here, I take the pawn, and then, you know, if he takes back, he's going to lose his bishop. If I take the pawn and he just takes it right away, then I can't remember. Hold up. My brain's not working. Sorry. If he goes here, takes, if the rook takes, then I can take this pawn. And I'll have 2 rooks on the 7th. That's what the idea was. I'm sorry. I'm just slow. I also want to reveal this bishop to a6, so he can't ever really play this anyway, just because it gets captured. So he puts his bishop on d5. I go ahead and take the pawn. Same thing as before. I want to try taking this. He takes with the pawn, so I'm not capable of taking it. So I merely sidestep. And now I have this nice little attack on the queen. And he can't block here. He can block here, but then my bishop is going to come to b5. And things are going to get rather uncomfortable for him quickly. He's going to have to block with like his rook or something like that, but then I have queen to b3, and I've pinned his king. So essentially I think I'm going to be winning, you know, his bishop if he tries to block with it. Or actually much simpler, if he tries to block with it, I'll just play d5, and I'm threatening the bishop and checkmate. So yeah, that's even easier. But anyway, he brings his queen to a safe square, e6. But his pieces are so passive, they're still on the 8th. I go ahead and bring my other rook in. So I have 2 rooks on the 7th that are gunning down on the king, and he's playing completely defensively now. My king is completely safe. We get a queen going to f6, and now I have the choice, if I want to take this pawn. And then when I take that pawn, he's going to take with queen, I take with rook. So 2 rooks for a queen and a pawn. I mean, it's pretty equal for both sides. I mean, it is easier for me to play against 2 rooks as just a queen, because all I really have to consider is where to move my queen. I don't need to coordinate 2 pieces together and make sure I never like leave them separately or anything, so they're kind of tied to each other by a chain. It can be done, but it's hard. Also, he still has a bishop, so he can kind of coordinate that with the rooks, and it gets a little easier for him. The bishop would kind of aid him in that. So instead, what I want to do is just mount the pressure even further. So now I target his next weakest piece, which is his bishop. So boom, queen goes to b5. I'm aimed at this, at this, at this, at this potentially. I've now opened up an option for my bishop to go to c4. Then I could recapture with check. So a few threats there. And he goes bishop e6. So I'm just going to go here to e5 next. And the idea is that I have just too many things right here for defense that I don't think he is going to be able to survive. So he takes, and then he plays rook a8. And he's obviously hoping that I take or something, and then he's just fine. But obviously I am going to first check him. He's not going to go here because I take one more pawn, but I'm going to take that pawn anyway. And I could take it one of 2 ways. I could either take the pawn first, and then we exchange. Or I could take his rook, he takes that, I take this pawn. And then I was thinking, I like the idea that I can, win his rook like that, and I'm still pinning his king to this last file, or row. I don't know what you call it. But I'm leaving him to the last thing. So that's what I did. I took, takes the pawn, and now I'm 2 pawns up. This one might fall, just because it's not attached to anything. But his only threat at this point is somehow his bishop and rook linking up. But, I mean, this pawn never lets me get checkmated, really. So I'm not worried about that. His other threat would just be being able to queen with that pawn. But I have a runner just as well, and then in the right scenario, this guy would be a runner too. So he goes there, I obviously move king up, or else I would lose the bishop. And then this very hard endgame to win. I think I'm just losing. He protects the pawn. I attack the pawn. He takes the rook. I give him check. Another move I was considering was just here. But then once I do that, and he goes here and I go here, he gets to move his king forward, and he's improved the position of 2 of his pieces. And then he moves the pawn, and all of a sudden my rook is doing nothing. It's not going off the king, it's not attacking the bishop, and it's not protecting this pawn. So I check him instead, and then I start pushing this other pass pawn. And he tries taking this, but if he were to take, I think he still gets there in time, but it's not very fun. I also can just cut him off if I wanted to in a few different ways. But he chose not to even take. He chose to just try to defend immediately. Yep, and I let him get close just because I have some moves to close the gap with tempo. Threat levels, boom, check, protect the pawn. He goes in front of it. If he goes in back, I'm just going to run with it, obviously. So now I push this pawn, and he's going to have a hard time stopping both of them, especially when I'm getting it with tempo where he has to move his bishop. So he goes here, and there is a world where I get checkmated if I play this like a dumbass. So if I push, he's going to check me. If I were to make a mistake and go here or whatever, then he takes, and then I get a queen, then that's going to be checkmate. Which is very stupid because I would have to make like 6 mistakes in a row. But I just want to make sure I didn't make any of those mistakes. So I just play g4. If he takes with a pawn, this bishop never connects. If he takes with a bishop, well, now I have all these dark squares that I can escape to. So I'll gladly sack a pawn for no chance of ever losing. He takes. I play e7. One move from promoting. He goes check. I just guard my bishop, which he starts to threaten. However, like I said, I just gave myself the dark square, so I'm never getting checkmated. Get my queen. Check. I'm here. He has one more check, but that blunders the rook. So he just goes back. I think he's looking to do something like this, but he doesn't have anything to do. So I just get the quick mate in 2. But yeah, that's how I evaluated it in game. Let me do a quick game review and see if I missed anything. So evaluation, lines, and feedback. Whoops, let's go to the start. Book. Skip through the book moves. Yeah, they prefer c3, but I don't think it's too much of a difference. Plus, normally I could fool someone with this line, but I don't mind. Everything seems normal still. They prefer just moving the rook there. Okay, that's fine. Because like I said, maybe in some world I wanted to go e4, so I guess if I put my rook there, I give myself the option down the line, whereas here I'm pretty, spending 2 tempo to do it if I wanted to. Knight f6. So d4 was a mistake, excuse me. So I went d4 because I want to keep things on dark squares, plus it's getting, protected by both. But I guess d3 is better, just because I cut off this move right away. So I can definitely respect that. But I go d4. Knight e4. Queen c2, rook a b8. a4. Queen c6 is a mistake. But I didn't find the correct move. So why does knight e5 win? Let me look at it first. It's because he can't go here now. So he's forced to move like here, for example, because otherwise I've got 2 threats on this if he just like moves out of the way. So to protect it, he can only go here. And when he does that, I guess I play c4. Then he has no choice but to go back. So he probably just takes this with the rook. And then I take back. And then he takes here. Nope, he doesn't take there. I guess, yeah, then he would probably play d5. But here I don't give him the time to play d5, whereas with my move, I did give him time to play d5. So I take, yeah, I'm still better. c4, bishop a6, rook fc1, f5, so we switch our focus, that's best, nice. Queen to e6, the computer didn't know what it was doing either. A5 is best, bishop e7, takes is best, this is best, this is best. Excellent. Excellent. And at this point we're tied, but my position has me 5 points up. Yep, best move. Just sidestep it. Best move. Best move. Queen b4 is best. So I prefer this square y. I don't understand, actually. GX. Yeah, I have no clue why that would be considered the best move. Excuse me. I'm sorry. But I guess this is the best move because you kind of force this trade off. Which I guess you could do anyway, but I don't know. We get bishop e6. This is an inaccuracy. d5 is better. This was the simplest way I saw to convert, though, so I went for it. As you can see, it's still very much winning. But they prefer d5. I guess it's because that doesn't have a home, really. This just gets taken. This just makes it drop the rook. So here you take with the rook. Take, and then you have a bishop and a queen for those two pieces. So, okay, I see why d5 is better, but I missed that in game. I just wanted to simplify. A bunch of best moves. I don't think the rest of this is completely necessary. But it seems like I was pretty accurate just seeing how most of them are best versus good. Because if you make enough good moves, then you are not going to win the game. You need them to be best, or else he can crawl back in. But yeah, that was pretty much it. I believe that game I had, yeah, 91.4% accuracy. There was that one miss, and then 2 inaccuracies, and then 2300 rating game, where my opening was 98%. Like I said, I studied this line, so I would hope that it would be pretty high. I just had that one inaccuracy, I think, or good move on like move 10 or something. And then middle game, 92%. I think I had that other inaccuracy. And the miss. No, sorry, the miss was in the end game. But that's why that's 88%. But very good performance. As you can see, my opponent did not play badly. The only thing is his end game was rough, but he was already losing by that point. So he just had to find the best moves, which he wasn't capable of doing. But no fault to him. He played very well. But that was all. Just wanted to share that game. Like I said, I'll be doing a lot of slow ones, and I'll be going over them afterwards. Since there might not be enough time in like a 10-minute game to kind of go over the thought processes. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed, and have a good one.